Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dundee Church Podcast. My name is J.D. Georlett. I'm the senior pastor here at Dundee Presbyterian Church in lovely Omaha, Nebraska. Keith Holmes is with me. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's hard to believe that the great Keith Holmes, as full as your schedule is, that we can actually sequester a certain amount of your time.
You guys are the top of the list. That's all there is to it. We have reached the pinnacle.
Once again,
we have reached the Dundee Presbyterian Podcast.
Keith has descended from on high.
Yes, that's right. I feel like Moses the way you talk about me. These two tablets.
There you go. These three tablets. These two tablets. Ladies and gentlemen, we are past rounding the clubhouse turn. We are in the final stretch here. This is the last podcast of the book of John, and it is the last podcast for this session, and we are going to take the summer off. And I don't know when you're listening to this, the summer of 2024 is about to happen, and so we take a break, and we'll come back in the fall with more podcasts.
Absolutely.
What are we doing? We don't know.
Surprise.
We don't know. Evidently, Keith thinks he knows, but we haven't had any discussion at all.
No, I have no idea.
I have no idea. And but we will come back, and it will be great.
It will.
Well, if you think that this is great, if
fun.
you're under the impression that what we do is great already, then we can confidently say that it'll be.
I can only imagine after 38 previous episodes, those that are still here think this is great because everybody else would have given up by now.
Audience is limited to the 4 or 5 people who lack the physical ability to change the dial.
I can't get this turned off.
I can't do this.
Well, we're glad you're with us. No matter who you are and how you got here, we love the fact that you're here.
We're not just a hallucinatory voice inside your head.
Amen.
We are actually here. All right, so chapter 21 of the book of John, verses 15 through 25. This is the end of the book, and we will talk about that passage. If you want to shut the podcast off and read those verses, that'll be helpful because we are a companion to your own devotional study. We begin with the question of what makes for good friendships. Keith, what do you think, buddy?
I think I can sum it up easily in one word, but me, I like words and using them, so I'm going to talk a little bit more. But trust is the number one that makes good friendship. But I think within trust, the one thing that I really kind of thought about was the ability to let your guard down. That ability. A true friend is someone who you can be yourself around. And we talked about this these last couple of weeks about how God knows us because he knows our hearts. And, and we talked too about how amazing it is that God could love me because I know me and I'm not lovable. But, the same thing could go with a friend as well. I'm not very friendship worthy, but people find me a friend and I want to be friendship worthy for those folks, and I want to be a good friend. And one of those ways I feel is to be able to let your guard down, say what you want to be able to say that may not be something you would ever say in front of your wife. We joke a little bit about that ourselves. But there are times when you just But my wife is my best friend. I mean, I will as sappy or whatever you want to say that sounds.
Keith, that's sappy.
That's sappy, right? But she is. She knows me and she knows me. The way nobody else knows me in my darkest times. I mean, she's held me in the middle of the night when I'm crying about a job when I was when I was first starting out in a career. I mean, she's, there's just been times where there's that trust and that ability to let my guard down that makes for that true friendship.
And we as human beings need that.
Amen.
And the willingness or the ability to let your guard down, when you were talking about that, the word freedom comes to mind. And then when you were talking about trust, and I couldn't agree more, trust is a thing that we all understand and that we all value in friendship and in relationships. But trust is something that's forged, something that is made, that's forged out of experience, out of different moments, a variety of different kinds of moments where person proves whether or not they're trustworthy. And isn't it interesting that we all have people in our families who have proven not to be trustworthy?
Amen.
And then people outside of our families who have blown us away, if you will, with their trustworthiness, forged out of different experiences. And then you get to that place where you know, this is a person with whom I can be real. Yep. This is a person with whom I can cry. This is a person who's going to forgive me. Not that we take advantage of that, but that's an undergirding thing,
right.
You know, that where I'm like, well, I'm not saying I can do whatever I want around this person because they'll forgive me.
Right.
I'm saying I have a sense of joy within me because I know that this person, this friend, is going to be with me,
right.
is going to forgive me, and we're going to carry on. And it's going to be true forgiveness. They're not going to hold it against me.
Right.
You know?
No, and that's exactly it, you know, because we know we're going to screw up. I mean, if you have any self-awareness, you know you're going to screw up. But that friend also knows that you're not purposely being mean, that it was a line you crossed. Yeah, it hurt, and we'll figure out how to get past it. Yeah. You and I have had moments like that where it's just like, okay, Keith, you've unintentionally hurt me, and we're just going to have to work through this, or, you know, vice versa. But really, it's mostly me just hurting you, probably. but really, it's important that, you know, that we have that kind of friendship that you can say, hey, I'm sorry, and they can say, yeah, I forgive you. And that's it.
The other key element that occurs to me about good friendship, and by the way, we are talking about our last passage here. This really does feed into this, because the last passage is really about the friendship, the partnership, the relationship that Jesus has with Peter, and then that Jesus also has secondarily in this story about with John. One of the things before we dive directly into that passage is that friendship needs to have a certain level of respect to it, where okay, I'm in relationship with this person, but there's not a sense of equality there in that relationship for whatever reason. That could be any number of things, whether it's experience or intelligence or this, that, or the other, whatever. The best friendships are ones where we really feel as if this person might be more talented than me, or smarter than me, or more successful than me. And I have certainly a lot of friends that are, you know, very successful people, but the reason it works is because they choose to treat me as their equal with that kind of respect, and I do the same thing. And sometimes we're not able to do that. We're just simply not going to do that. I bring that up because here we are in chapter 21, verses 15 through 25. Again, this is the last Bible study in the book of John. And Jesus and Peter are not equals. No. I mean, no one is the equal of Jesus. Right. And yet Jesus has to be in relationship with us. And he says, I know, in a previous verse, he says, I don't call you servants anymore. I call you friends. Right. You know my business. I've told you, you know, what I'm doing. Servant doesn't know that. Friend does. And paraphrase. And so Jesus has endeavored to do really the impossible, and that is to be friends with us when we not only have let him down and continue to let him down, we're just not as equal at all. It's a very difficult thing for Jesus to be in a relationship with us. I don't think we think about that very, very much. And here we have this scene after the miraculous catch of fish, which we talked about in the last podcast. And now, from after breakfast, of fish breakfast, which Keith has already made it clear is just not for him.
Still can't be a good breakfast.
No, come on, it can. I mean, what are you talking about? Anyway, how does this? So after that, Jesus is like, "Come on, Peter, let's go have a walk.
Let's go talk.
Let's go talk." And it's interesting because Cain and Abel, same kind of thing. Come on, Abel. Come on, brother. Let's go take a walk together. And Cain bashes his brains in with a rock. Come talk with me. There would be some trepidation on Peter's part because Peter did deny even knowing him 3 times. And then we have this moment. And the question is, how does this scene connect with the 3 denials? Well, most obviously, Jesus asks him, Peter, 3 times, do you love me? This is after that's the obvious way this scene, in the pointed way that this scene connects with the three denials. But there's more to it, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
That it connects. How does it connect?
One of the big things was they were public denials. And John is the only witness for the reconciliation. Yeah. So this is a very private moment that we are blessed to be a part of, to actually see.
Absolutely.
And again, we've said it before, this is not a mistake. This isn't John sneaking around behind them, listening in, eavesdropping. This is God's intention for us to see this. And so, it connects in a very, in a way that it was very public. And then, as one of the Gospels says, that at that moment, Jesus and Peter's eyes meet after the third denial, and Peter, the light. There's a meme out there, and that was the moment we saw his soul leave his body. You could almost imagine Peter just giving up the ghost, so to speak, and just going, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?"
Right.
But here, it hurts him to do this. And that's another way it connects too, right? Because while he was doing it, he was trying to save his skin, and it was just a self-preservation thing. Like, no, I don't know him. No, woman, I don't know what you mean. Listen to me. I tell you, I don't know him.
In
the three denials. And here it's like, yes, I love you. Yes, you're hurting me. Yes, I love you. And, it's just that juxtaposition. It was like, because Jesus, I'm sure, was saying, you didn't think that hurt me when you denied me 3 times?
Right.
So that connects in that way. There's that cross flow of hurt and reciprocation of it. But I don't think Jesus was being mean per se. I just think it was, again, just that cathartic, let's just get this out in the open here, and it hurts, yes, but it'll be better.
You're skipping forward, and I like it.
We can go back.
Because I had a question where I was going to ask, did Jesus know that he was hurting Peter?
Yeah.
Certainly the answer is yes, but let's go further than that. I mean, I like what you're saying.
Well,
Jesus does, and just let's say something that's very important to say. The answer to that question is that Jesus does know that he is hurting Peter by asking him 3 times, "Do you love me?" It says in there on the 3rd time, Peter was hurt because he asked him a 3rd time, "Do you love me?" Does Jesus know that? Did Jesus interpret? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He intended this. Yeah. I'm going to make this. I'm going to make this sting.
Right.
It's interesting what you're referencing there. That Jesus dares to connect with Peter in the area of pain. Right. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
I think it's right.
Well, it's the oldest trick in the book. We talk to the kids about this. It's like, a shot. The doctor knows this vaccination is going to keep you from something worse. So, and I really think that Peter very well may have fallen away from his faith had not Jesus reconciled this particular point. Because how many of us hide in shame from God, and how many people just go, well, I just can never face God again. I'm going to have to leave.
They have to reconcile.
Yeah.
If they're going to go forward together.
Right, absolutely.
They can't just, if they're going to be friends in ministry going forward together, and that's what they are going to do.
Yeah.
They have to reconcile. They can't just say, "Wow, that didn't matter." It hurt Jesus that he denied him 3 times, and we have to deal with that. We have to reconcile that. We have to make that right.
How many of us just read those chapters or read those verses and think, "Oh, poor Jesus," but never really think Peter hurt his feelings?
Exactly. There's pain. There's suffering that Jesus is feeling. And the other way that it connects is that Peter denied Jesus 3 times for no real reason at all. In each one of those denials, he wasn't really in any danger at all.
But he perceived it, though.
He perceived that
it could be a very bad thing, but it wasn't.
But it really wasn't. I mean, it wasn't that challenging a situation.
What's this little Jewish woman standing around a fire going to do?
Right, exactly. Yeah. It was just a servant girl. Right. Was she going to hit me with a broomstick or something?
Right, or call the police? They don't listen to women.
Right. Yeah. And isn't there the chance that you could say, "Yeah, he's my best friend," and the woman might say, "Gosh, this must really be a hard day for you." No, I'm not even going to give you a chance to say that. I don't even know this Jesus at all. So. So Jesus goes to the 3 questions of "I love you," in a moment when it hurts Peter, and that's a challenging thing for him in that moment to say that he loves him.
Yeah.
A much steeper hill, if you will, than the three denials, where it would have been easy for him just to say, "Yeah, I know him. He's my friend."
Yeah.
That would have been easy for him. It's a little bit harder now to claim I love you because there's hurt, there's shame he's got to overcome.
Exactly right. I mean, well, we all have that, right? We all have the shame of sin to overcome. And I think this is a beautiful picture of the fact that to find Jesus, sometimes it's going to hurt. You're going to have to admit you did something wrong and that you have hurt the perfect Son of God.
So my question was, one of my questions is, how does Peter respond? Do you think that Peter is admitting, he doesn't admit that in words that he hurt the Son of God, but do you think he is admitting that? Do you think he's acknowledging that at all? Do you see that at all underneath it?
Yeah, I guess. I sit here and I'm like, that sense of why are you asking me this, hurting him? Because let's face it, he's been around Jesus for 3 years. He's watched Jesus teach. He knows Jesus asks questions that we don't know the answer to. He knows that Jesus will push to a point. It's just maybe, he's never been pushed to that point in that time of ministry. Right. So now all of a sudden he's being pushed. He is being treated like a Pharisee. He's being treated like an unbeliever. Right. And all of a sudden, well, I've been with you for I'm your right-hand man. I'm the guy. Of course I love you, and all of that, but all of that also comes from a point of, I denied you 3 times. I know what I did. Again, I know me, and how can you love me? You're making me feel bad about this. And again, it's a very human reaction because, again, how do you have a human reaction when you're talking to the raised Jesus, the Christ? I mean, but you don't, in those moments, I don't think he even recognized that he was talking to Jesus, the risen Lord, anymore. He was talking to his friend. Right. And it was hurting him that his friend was doing this to him.
Amen. Yeah. Talking to the risen Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior of all, that's great conversation. Talking to Jesus, your friend, is it higher? Is it greater? I'm not sure it is, but it's certainly awesome. It's certainly an awesome thing. Both those conversations can happen because he's those things. I'm impressed with Peter's response. I'm impressed with Peter's response to the 3 questions that Jesus asks. He asked the same question 3 times. Do you love me? Do you love me more than these? Yeah. There's a lot of speculation about what these, more than these fish that we just caught, more than these disciples, do you love me really more than anything else? I'm impressed with Peter's response because he overcomes his insecurity. He overcomes his shame. Yeah. He dares to answer. I'm impressed with his answer because even though it hurts, he doesn't get defensive. But one of the things that's really impressive, perhaps most impressive in his response, is not that he says, Jesus, I do love you. That's impressive that I do love you. But what he says is, Jesus, you know everything. You know that I love you. You know that I love you. I don't have to prove this to you. Right. I'm secure with the fact that you know everything, and that you know even better than I do that I love you. Now that almost makes me cry because I worry about how well I love the Lord, and I want Jesus to, in the end, say, "I knew that you loved me the whole time, better than I feel as if I love you." Yeah. Peter, in that moment, because he denied him 3 times, has to feel very much questioning whether or not he loves Jesus. But then he rallies back and says, "Wait a minute. This is not about how I feel about my 3 denials. Right. This is about what you know. Yeah. And your Lord, you know everything. you know I love you, don't you? Mm-hmm. That's what's really going on. You know it, right?
Yeah.
And the questions cause, I think, Peter to realize, holy cow, he knows that I love him. He wants me to realize and know that I know he loves me.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of that, I don't know about in your life that needs to happen, but in my life where I need to just grow in the realism that the light needs to come on in me.
Yeah.
Jesus knows that I love him better than I know that I love him.
Because
think about that for a minute.
Absolutely, we can doubt ourselves.
Yeah.
But Jesus, who knows everything, doesn't doubt that we love him because he knows it.
He knows it, or we don't love him. And I live in that insecurity quite a bit. I don't know how much that insecurity strikes you, but I live in that insecurity of how well do I really love Jesus. It might sound odd to you to hear a minister say that, but ministers have this struggle of, hey, my faith, my relationship with Jesus Christ is tied to the way I make a living. It's tied to my vocation. So we quite often sit there and say, well, am I doing this because I'm doing this because I love Jesus or because it's my job? Well, I just got to record 3 podcasts today. It's my job. That's what I do.